This is Aliza Ben Shalom from Netflix's Jewish Matchmaking, and you're listening to Fascination Street podcast. This was my favorite podcast.
Yeah, AV in your ears. That's Ambush V giving you this audio visual down the most interesting street in the world with my boy Steve. Fascination Street, you already know. Let's get it. When you whip for the Fascination Street, what do you?
Welcome back, Streetwalkers. This episode is with Pamela Schuller, Pam, from the Netflix series Jewish Matchmaking. In this episode, we talk about how Pam came to become a stand-up comedian and a storyteller. We also talk a lot about her time at Jewish summer camps growing up and how some of those experiences turned her into the storyteller comedian that she is today. She also does a lot of advocacy work with teens and young adults who are looking for someone to talk to. Pam is very open and honest in talking about her experiences with and answering my uninformed and ridiculous questions about Tourette's. She has Tourette Syndrome, and so I ask a lot of questions about that just because, well, I don't really know a whole lot about it, and I wanted to learn more. She was very honest, very open, and very kind to answer these questions for me. And then we talk about her experience on the show Jewish Matchmaking on Netflix. What she hoped to get out of it, how her life has changed as a result of it, maybe, and her relationship with the actual Jewish matchmaker herself, Aliza Ben Shalom. I can't thank Pam enough. She was so sweet, so kind, and so open and honest. And this is my conversation with stand-up comedian, disability advocate, and cast member on the Netflix TV show Jewish Matchmaking, Pamela Schuller.
Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated. Prepare to be fascinated.
Welcome to Fascination Street podcast, Pamela Schuller. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am hot. It is so hot here. Oh my gosh.
Where are you located?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas. I don't know what it got to today, but right now it's 4:00 and it's 104 outside.
I'm like blizzard, so I would love that.
Well, I work outside, so it sucks. But we're not here to talk about that. People know me. They know my crybaby self. We're here to talk about you. Can I call you Pam for the rest of the episode? Is that cool?
Yes. Thank you for asking.
Thank you, Pamela Schuller. I appreciate it. I'll just use your whole name. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Pam Schuller. She is a stand-up comedian. She is also a disability advocate. And we're going to talk about some of those things. Oh, and also we're going to talk about her experience on Netflix's Jewish Matchmaking. But first, Pam, what I like to do is start from the beginning. It helps us understand how the guests got from where they were to where they are. So where were you born and raised? Where'd you grow up?
Ooh, so I jumped around a little bit. Born in Ohio, Toledo, Ohio. And then my family moved to Indiana. And that's where my Tourette's got severe. I was struggling. So I went to boarding school in Burlington, Vermont. And then while there, my family moved back to Ohio. And now I live in New York City.
So you went to boarding school because your Tourette's was so disruptive or got out of hand or what?
I would say it was a few things. It was that Tourette's was disruptive and out of hand, and my school system didn't know what to do with me. I think often we put people into a box. I was smart and I had no control over my body and the noises that I made. So I would say that was one thing. My school didn't know what to do with me. And then I was an asshole. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I was. I was snarky and funny and inappropriate, and none of it was properly channeled. And I was mad at the world.
Shit, maybe I had Tourette's.
I don't, it was at that point, it was which one? Was it Tourette's or was that I was an angsty teenage asshole? Right. And it's pick one. Who knows?
So when your parents moved back to Ohio, did they leave you in Vermont?
So my dad died. So it was just my mom. No, it's okay.
Hilarious. So sorry.
Right. I have jokes about it now. So yeah, I mean, she moved while I was at boarding school, but my favorite is that all of those years, I was we joked that one day she was going to change her numbers and move and not tell me where she went. And it was very much a joke. And then one day I called home from boarding school and it said, this phone number has been disconnected. And she'd forgotten to tell me that was moving day. She also got a new cell phone that day. And so I called her best friend and was like, did my mom move? And just not tell me. And we had a great laugh about it. She called me back like 10 minutes later and she was like, oh, it was like everything happened at once. She was like, new phone moved.
It was like new phone, who dis?
Yes. Pam Hill.
That is awesome.
But I was thrilled because it means I didn't have to go back and visit the other hometown anymore. It was back to Ohio.
Yeah. Screw you, other hometown.
Yeah.
I gotta ask, when in this timeline that we have discussed so far, did you get kicked out of your synagogue because of Tourette's?
Yeah. So that would have been before boarding school. I was kicked out of everything you can get kicked out of. The media likes us to think that Tourette's is like just yelling bad words. In reality, for most of us, that's not the case. And I think it's like out of every 5 people with Tourette's, 1 has an additional diagnosis of yelling words or phrases. And I was the lucky one.
So there's separate diagnoses?
Yeah. So if you yell things, there's like additional diagnoses that you have. So Tourette's really is just movements and noises and enough from each category, not necessarily words or phrases. I yelled words and phrases for part of my adolescence.
Were they awesome words and phrases, or were they like...
Sometimes they got me in trouble. I had like favorite ones. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the Little Caesars commercial where it's the little guy that goes, pizza, pizza. You ever seen that commercial?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
In 6th grade, I heard that commercial and my Tourette's brain went, yep, that. And so for 2 years, whenever it got quiet, I would yell, pizza, pizza. Some were fun. And you know what? As a kid, I usually wanted pizza. So it was a public service announcement.
As an adult, everybody wants pizza. Duh.
Yes.
That is hilarious.
Yeah. Some were just bad and got me in trouble. And I'd love to never have to say those again. So as a kid, I was getting kicked out of everything, like malls. I got kicked out of the movie Legally Blonde, baseball games, school. Got kicked out of everything. So I was kicked out of my synagogue around like 6th, 7th grade.
Now, a lot of people in the 6th or 7th grade range would love to be kicked out of church. How is that different for a Jewish person? You wanted to be in synagogue?
No.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I didn't want to not be wanted in synagogue.
Got you. Yeah.
I didn't want to be there necessarily, but I didn't want to not be wanted. I think that was like, I also didn't want to be in 6th grade, but I didn't want to not be allowed to go to 6th grade.
That's a good point.
Right? That was the shift, that I was already such an angsty teen. I already felt like the world had no place for me. And then I'm suddenly being told that these institutions don't want me either.
Didn't you have like, I don't know, the worst case of Tourette's on record or some shit like that?
I did. I'm sure people have beat that record now, but as a kid, my Tourette's was so severe. It was like, yes, I made noises and yelled words, but also physically, I would throw my head back so hard and so many times I broke my own neck. I tensed my stomach muscles so hard I ruptured my own appendix. They like did trial medications on me. No one knew what to do with me. There were teams of doctors working on me.
From all of the best schools, right? All of the best hospitals?
Yeah. So I had a team of doctors at Cleveland Clinic, Rush Hospital in Chicago, and NYU.
Now, this is going to sound like a really stupid question, and I apologize in advance.
It's okay.
When you have an involuntary motion that is so, I don't know, sharp and strong or whatever, that it breaks bones or ruptures organs, again, this is a dumb question.
That's okay.
Is there just a massive amount of pain associated with those activities?
Yeah.
Not that you're different, but does it hurt the same as if I broke my neck? It hurts like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then picture it like this. Maybe you get in a car accident and break your neck. Then imagine your body continuing to spasm that area of your body.
Oh, no. In that same spot. Oh.
Right. So at one point, my neck was already broken. The bone had gone into my skull and started shattering like slowly over time. And then my body kept doing the movement. So it couldn't heal. You know, I broke my ankle from my eyes were crossed. Someone nudged me, accidentally fell off a sidewalk, shattered my ankle in half. But then I'd like tick it by pushing my ankle into the cast. So after 3 months in a cast, the break was worse than the initial break.
What is it like for you as an adult you're a towering 4'6" tall?
And a half.
Oh, sorry. The half is very important.
It is so important to me.
So what is it like for a giant of 4'6.5" to never be able to, or how do you heal? Like, how did your ankle actually heal if it was worse after a cast?
It took a long time.
So just forever, huh?
Because at some point, I think probably the pain subsided and then Tourette's kind of focused a little less on that area. But I think I ended up being in a cast for almost a year.
Whoa. So does Tourette's, again, forgive me, I have a million questions.
That's okay.
Okay, you hurt your ankle. And so does that send some signal to your brain that says, hey, focus on that part? And then it's just sending signals to twitch and jerk and whatever?
Yeah, so there's like a lot of unknowns about Tourette's, but for me, if something is already hurting, I'm aware of it, and often then Tourette's gets worse in that area.
Gotcha.
So at this point in my life, now that I'm, old.
70's old. You can say you're old. Yeah.
I'm 84.
Oh, you look great.
I'm in my 30s. And at this point, when Tourette's gets bad in a part of my body, I have to just remind myself that it will shift. It will move to another area. And if I just kind of lean into it and know that it's going to do what it's going to do, that's really helpful for me.
So it's just kind of a mentally knowing, this will pass.
Yeah, it is what it is.
How long did it take you to get to that mindset?
Oh, I'm still working on it.
Okay.
But I've realized at this point in my life, we all have something. And so
Sure.
I don't know. I have this belief that if everyone were to take all of our stuff and like label it in a duffel bag and throw it in front of us, and we could all see everyone else's stuff, most of us would choose our own duffel bag to take back. And once I kind of had that, like everyone has a battle, everyone's going through something, you learn how to love what it is that makes you you. Tourette's isn't going anywhere. Might as well love it.
Where did you come up with that duffel bag theory? I love that.
I doubt I came up with, maybe I came up with it, but I just don't think I'm that smart. So I have no idea when that came into my life.
Was it part of a master's in child advocacy?
A few degrees at this point. Yeah, maybe. I love learning. I love school as long as I get to focus on what I'm excited about. So I really love a few areas, and it's disabilities, mental health, and creativity comedy. And so every program I've done lets those overlap, and professors who let me find cool things to do with those.
What the hell is creativity comedy?
Anything that's creative. So for me, it's not necessarily stand-up. I love stand-up, but I also love storytelling. So when I work with companies and brands, I do like comedy and storytelling, and then I weave in concrete tips and tools as like a teaching, right? So I've worked with some incredibly cool brands and companies, and I like will share my story, but not everyone has Tourette's. So then
wait, hold on. Wait. Back up.
Okay.
I got to write this down. Not everyone has Tourette's.
Everyone should. It's great. But as of now,
different duffel bags for everybody.
If you talk to me after one glass of wine, I will maybe tell you it's contagious if I'm being snarky that day.
Well, after I have a few glasses of wine, I might actually have Tourette's. I say things I'm not supposed to say. I do things I'm probably not supposed to do.
We get our mouths in trouble. It doesn't take alcohol for me to get my mouth in trouble.
So, again, stand-up comedian or also sitting down comedian. You do all the comedian things. Don't you write for comedy things? Didn't you write for a Mayim Bialik project?
I've written for a bunch of different things and people and TV things. And for Mayim, I wrote for her website and did a few things with her. I did a show with her.
Was it her most recent show?
No. We did like a Zoom thing together.
Oh, okay, cool.
I've had the opportunity to write for a lot of cool stuff and cool people, sometimes kind of quietly. No one's writing right now because there's a strike, and I'm absolutely siding with them and not crossing any picket lines.
Okay, we're going to go back and forth a little bit all over your crazy history because a lot of it is, fascinating to me. I know 4'6.5" is not super short. It's not super tall.
No, it's super short, I would say.
Well, what is the cutoff? I think it's like 4'10" or something.
Under 4'11", I'm technically a little person, but
okay,
there's other pieces that go into it. So my diagnosis is of short stature, I believe.
What a hell of a phrase.
I know. I love it.
I don't want to say were you always short, but like, was there a certain point in your growing up in school where all of a sudden everybody started outgrowing you? Like, were you right in line with everybody, or were you always a little bit smaller than everybody else?
No, I was always shorter and smaller and hit puberty way too early. Everyone was like, no, because I think my whole family was like, she will grow. She will grow. No, I've always been short. I was born off the charts and too short, like super short. We knew.
So growing up, which was harder to deal with, the Tourette's or the being short?
Oh, Tourette's. Being short has never been an issue. I think it's probably easier. Well, I don't want to say this. I think it's hard for everyone, but I think I wasn't going to play sports. Like, there's no reason why I cared about being short. I love it.
Well, I love it too.
Grocery stores refer to me as the climber in New York. I've heard them.
You've heard them. We got a climber.
Yeah, the climber's here. I was like, listen, happy to not climb if you have staff available to get stuff down for me.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey, Streetwalkers. This month, the month of August, I have a special treat for you. This whole month is going to be themed. That's right. This month is Jewish Matchmaking theme. So I'm bringing you exclusive interviews with 3 members of the cast and the actual matchmaker herself, all from the Netflix TV show Jewish Matchmaking. Season 1 is out and available now. My wife and I enjoyed it so much that I reached out to all these people to see if I could get them on, and boom! They were all gracious and generous enough with their time to hang out and let us get to know all of them a little bit better. So pay attention. Every Monday this month, the month of August 2023, each week will be a cast member from the show, finishing up with the actual Jewish matchmaker herself, the host of the show. I'm not going to give any names. You can check it out. You can look for it. You can just wait. But you will enjoy every single one of these interviews. I promise. And tell a friend.
Let's get back into it.
Okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but ladies and gentlemen, she has also been a keynote speaker for companies like Disney and Google and some other ones. How did you get into the keynote speaker / make everybody giggle a little bit before you hit them with the good stuff business?
Good question. So I've been a comic for years, since high school.
Oh, congratulations.
Thanks. Doing stand-up forever. And started, like, doctors would ask me to come speak about my experience with Tourette's when I was younger, just because I think I was able to articulate what was going on in my world and my body. I think that's part of my creativity. I was able to find the words. And like 8 years ago, I was asked to give a version of a TED Talk. I've done a bunch. I've also done a TEDx talk. I've done it all. The first one I did was called, I think, like an Eli talk. And I wrote with the coach. They were like, be serious, like talk about disability. And so I wrote it, and it was like serious, and it didn't feel authentically me. And about a week before it, I like broke down crying, and I was like, this doesn't feel like me. Something is missing. So a week before it, I rewrote the entire thing. Nobody heard me rehearse it but my sister's dog, who listened beautifully. And I wrote it still to be like serious and meaningful, but I added in parts that felt authentically me. I'm a comedian. I'm a storyteller. I needed to find humor in these moments. And I rewrote it. No one heard it. And I performed it. And I watched the audience laugh. And then I watched everyone start sobbing. And someone came up to me after and said, get ready. You're going to start getting requests to do this. And so before it came out, that was a 13-minute talk. And then I spent, I think, a few months turning it into 45 minutes. And at first it was really just like Jewish and also other faith-based communities. I did really everyone. And then as I kind of got that down, I started, working on a version for high school and college and middle school. And then as I got that down, companies started reaching out. And so it was like a slow progression. But now I get to work with summer camps and companies and colleges and kind of religious everyone. I work with everyone, which is great. Every day is different.
That is a blessing, every day being different. And also, yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're doing what you love, so that can't be bad.
No, every day.
I'm glad you brought up camp. I want to talk about Camp Gucci.
Yeah.
And or the fictional Lake Louis Vuitton.
Yeah. How do you know all this? Have you stalked me beautifully?
Yes, I'm a very good stalker. Tell me about Camp Gucci.
Mm-hmm.
Is it in upstate New York? Where is Camp Gucci?
No, it's in Indiana.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I mean, I was a Jewish kid in the Midwest.
Still are.
Well, now I'm a New Yorker, but yeah, it was like a Midwest Jewish summer camp. I'm a Reform Jew.
I don't know what that means.
I'll explain it. There's different levels of observance.
Okay.
I'm Jewish. I'm more culturally Jewish at this point. I eat bacon. I don't really observe Shabbat unless I'm at a place where they do it and then I'll do it with them. I'm kind of Jewish in a way that works for me, right? Like I love the food. I love the holidays. I love my family that we're Jewish, right? But I'm not super observant. And so that camp kind of fit the level, although maybe they were even probably a little more observant than I am. And it was great. I had a ton of fun at that place. I grew up there. My sister went there. I still try to go there in the summers and do shows. I'm friends with their camp director. It's a magical place. The facilities are run down, but it's magical. And when I tell people I grew up at Camp Gucci, they get this weird face. And then I say, yeah, we went swimming at like Louis Vuitton.
For those listening, it's not really Camp Gucci. It kind of is.
No, that's how everyone knows it. And it stands for Goldman Union Camp Institute,
which is a worse name than Gucci. Now, you said you had a blast there.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you go, you're having fun all over the place. I want you to tell me about one time when you got kidnapped.
Yeah. Oh, you did a deep dive. This is one of my favorite stories. I was running the CIT program at this camp. And so I was in charge of like 40 some teenagers, I think going into senior year of high school, might be junior year, but it's one of those 2 years. And I was in charge. And then I had 2 guys who were like my assistants, but one of them was one of my best friends. And one night, all of the kids were back in their building to go to sleep. You know, there's like one building that houses them all. And it got really quiet. And when you've got 40 some teenagers and it gets silent, something is not right. They're never quiet. So I like peeked in and everything looked normal. And so I went back out, but my like spidey senses, and I was a college kid, right? My spidey senses were like, something's up. And then I peeked in again a few minutes later and none of them were there. And so I ran to my assistant unit heads and I was like, go check if the guys are there or else the girls just snuck out. And they peeked in and they were like, no, they're all there. A few minutes later, they peeked in again and they were all gone, which there's something beautiful about them working together to sneak out and silence. They're not capable of that. I'd never heard them be silent. We had to go find them. And the assistant camp director was like, go find them. We found out later he was in on the whole thing and had helped them plan and execute this. So we were walking around camp trying to find them. We walk into this building, the lights are off, and suddenly we're pounced on, we're hogtied, blindfolded. I knew I like saw enough to know it was mine. It was like my kids. But in being funny, I took off running just to mess with them. And the shortest one of the kids in slow motion jumped on top of me, accidentally elbowed me, gave me a full black eye. And all of a sudden we're hogtied. I have a shiner. We don't know it yet. Mouth duct tape shut. I realized we're getting on a bus. And I was like, who's in charge? Like, there are children putting me on a bus. Like, they were silent the whole way. And then the bus stops, still hogtied. We get off and they take my blindfold off and we're walking into a Denny's. And everybody's staring at us. And it ended up being a ton of fun. They bought us dinner. We like at midnight. We stayed out till like 3:00 in the morning. I realized there were people in charge. It was okay. I don't know. As someone who was an angsty, tough teenager, the fact that they worked together so beautifully to kidnap the people in charge and take us to Denny's is a memory I'll hold forever.
I wonder what all of those kids grew up to be.
I'm still in touch with most of them. I just had coffee with one of them in the city last week, and they're all great. There are some doctors, a few work in entertainment. They're great. They're like 5 years younger than me, and they're all wonderful.
That's fantastic. I guess I should have figured entertainment and doctor. It was a Jewish summer camp.
Okay, stereotype.
So when you go to meet up with somebody for coffee or whatever that has at one time kidnapped you, are you concerned going into that meeting?
No, I work out hard. These days, I'm pretty sure I could take most of them.
Nice. There was a movie a few years ago called Hello, My Name is Frank. Have you seen it?
I have not.
I'm going to say you should probably check it out, and here's why.
Okay.
It is a sort of a road trip movie about a man who is diagnosed with Tourette's. And then he goes on this basically summer trip with, some teenage girls that were going to go on a trip anyway and blah, 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 whatever. But this film handled Tourette's so well that it was actually endorsed by the National Tourette's
Association. Amazing.
So Go check it out.
I definitely will.
Normally, when you see Tourette's displayed on some sort of a screen, either the person with Tourette's is the butt of the joke, or, there's some sort of something wrong with that person. And this movie doesn't really play it that way. It's just a difference.
Yeah.
How do you feel that Tourette's is portrayed?
On everything I see, it's slightly different, right? Like it was portrayed differently in South Park than it was in Deuce Bigalow, than it is on TikTok. And I think some are really authentic representations and some are the media having a great time and taking the part of it that seems the most sensational and really playing off of that. A lot of people ask me, like, if I liked the South Park episode with Tourette's. I'm a comedian. I love that South Park makes fun of everyone. I love that Tourette's was included. And then there are things that Tourette's is on that, like, I just don't think it was an accurate representation. Or I think clearly nobody who actually has Tourette's was in the writer's room or acting in it. And then I don't love it. So I think it just, there's like a number of factors. Sometimes it's great. And sometimes I wish they hadn't done that.
I'm glad you brought up TikTok. I had completely forgotten until right now. What the hell is with this TikTok beans thing? What's going on?
The TikTok beans?
Yeah. So like it was, I don't know, over the last 9 or 10 months or so. I don't know if the word trending applies, but a massive amount of teen girls who are all of a sudden having Tourette's, and they all seem to be shouting beans.
Yeah. The New York Times did an article about how a lot of these adolescents on TikTok don't actually have diagnosed Tourette's, but they have what looks like Tourette's on TikTok. And there's a lot of studies on what's going on behind that.
Well, okay. There's a lot of studies. What is your opinion? What do you think is going on?
I think I'm still forming my opinion. My opinion is if you're a teenager and you feel the need to have a platform, then I love that TikTok exists because it's going to amplify your voice and give you that platform. And there's a level of healthiness and unhealthiness to anything like that. So I hope that all those kids have support. I doubt they all do. So that's a piece that I wish existed. I think a lot of them, what we're seeing, it ends up being a level of anxiety that's showing up like Tourette's. But I think if it feels real to that kid, I don't really care what the diagnosis is. I want to make sure that we're not elevating people who are flat out lying. And I know there was a huge Tourette's influencer on TikTok who it recently came out that she didn't have it at all. She had been lying. And I think that's a problem. But I'll say this. I do a lot of work with helping young people elevate and find their voices. And I do that in all parts of my life.
Okay.
So if I do a keynote at a high school, I might also do a workshop on storytelling.
Got you. What inspired you to work with teens and the youth in this way?
Well, I think a few things. We know that what takes away stigma is hearing other people and connecting with stories. And for me, doing stand-up and storytelling was life-saving and transformative. And I know I'm not the only kid that would have been the case for. Not every kid is going to love that art form or connect with that. But for the kids that want it, need it, or craving it, it can be life-saving and life-changing to feel like you're finding your voice, to feel like people want to hear your voice. And I love hearing the stories of teens. I love when after a show at a high school, they all get in a line to share with me something about their life.
That's really sweet. One more question about, I guess, Jewish summer camp, and then we'll move on from it because I'm just so fascinated because I grew up in San Antonio. We don't really have those as far as I know.
Are you Jewish?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if you were looking for a Jewish summer camp because there is a great one in Texas.
Oh, really? Where?
I don't remember the town, but I've been there. It's a great summer camp.
Well, I love that town. So when you were at Jewish summer camp, Camp Gucci, as it were, you did a couple of things. One of the things you did was you did a thing that you called Project Ruach.
Yeah.
Project Ruach.
Ruach. That means spirit.
Okay. Now, this was sort of a play that you wrote for the entire camp.
Yeah. So every summer, the oldest group on camp, the high school students, do a play. It's a surprise to the rest of the camp what it is. They rehearse in secret. It's a big deal. And it's usually like Grease, something like that, right? The Lion King. And every summer there are about 15 kids with lines and the rest of the 100 and some kids are bored because they've got no part in it. And it's a play that they may or may not even connect with. And so I called the camp director, I think my senior year of undergrad, and I said, can I write a play for the oldest kids, a musical? And he said, to anyone else, I'd say no, but go for it. And so I gave every kid a part. I based it on our camp. It was like a parody of our camp getting in a healthy competition with the camp across the lake. We don't have a lake. There's no camp across the lake, but I pretended there was one. And I wrote a musical for the camp, and every single kid got a line. Some of the kids hated it, and most of them loved it. And they still have the song. Like, we wrote, an opening day song in the play, and that's still the song that the camp sings now on the opening day.
Stop it. That is so sweet. When did you know that you wanted to be a writer?
Oh, I think I'm still leaning into the fact that I'm a writer. I think that was like almost a scary identity for me to take on, because I always felt like a storyteller, and I don't spell anything correctly, and I punctuate like a disaster. And so I thought that meant I wasn't a writer. And I've realized, oh my gosh, you can absolutely be a writer, and someone else can help you punctuate and correct the spelling. And once I leaned into that, I started having some articles published. I've written some things. I wrote a book that is not out yet.
What?
Yeah. So at boarding school, I was such an asshole that they had me write letters of apology.
Oh my God.
To everyone I was a jerk to. And when I graduated, they gifted me back all of these apology letters they forced me to write. And they are funny and snarky and inappropriate, and never was I actually sorry. And I found them, and I was so clearly a writer. I just didn't know it yet. Even with stand-up, I write my own jokes. So I see all these moments where I've been a writer, but was never comfortable calling myself that. And so I'm leaning into it now.
Well, now I got to ask, tell me about the book. What can you tell me about the book?
Not that much.
Nice. There's a book coming.
So more of it is that I'm keeping it a little under wraps, because I think you jinx something if you tell too many people and share too much before it's ready.
You are not wrong. I can't count on all my digits how many times I have booked a guest that I was excited about, and I told people, and then it didn't happen. And then I feel like a total ass.
Yeah.
So I don't tell anybody anymore until it's done.
Yeah. It's like some of it is I'm afraid I'll jinx it. I don't know. I don't want to put extra pressure on myself with this creative passion project, but it's for teens. It's YA. It's based on the apology letters that I was forced to write at boarding school. And I won't say much more than that. It's funny. It's heartbreaking. And I'm really excited to share it with the world. It's going to be a few more years, though.
I love that you found these letters, and then that inspired you to do a whole nother thing. That is so cool.
Yeah. I found them in my mother's basement, because I save everything. And she was forcing me to get rid of half of everything. That was the commitment. And I found these letters, and I was like, oh, now I can't get rid of anything, because this might all be helpful.
Turns out it's going to be.
Yeah.
Hey, Streetwalkers, here's a word from our sponsors.
Hey, Streetwalkers, Steve here. I'm proud to announce the newest and coolest sponsor of Fascination Street podcast, Bravago Hard Seltzer. Go bold. Grill a tomahawk steak just for you on a Tuesday. Run your sprinklers twice in a row. Wear 2 different socks to your sister's wedding. Play golf with 2 balls from the ladies' tee box. However you go bold, do it with Bravago Bold Seltzer, the newest and boldest hard seltzer out there, with flavors like Sweet Freak, Vanilla Orange Cream, Chill Out, Rainier Cherry, and Sucker Punch, Strawberry Lemon. These seltzers pack an intense flavor and 5.1% alcohol by volume, with between 110 and 120 calories each. Find a store or purchase online at drinkbravago.com. Must be 21 or older to purchase or consume. Please drink responsibly. Go bold.
Let's get back into it.
So you do or have done a thing where you pair teens with professional comedians to write jokes about loving their differences. Do you still do that? And also, tell me more about that.
Yeah. I love like talking to teens about how like you're going to grow up hearing that there are these jobs. This is what exists. And in reality, you can take your passions and create an entire world. It just takes time and creativity. So I love doing things like this. And I've done it a few times at this point where I work with teens and professional comedians to write jokes about embracing what makes them them. I did it a few years ago and we sold out Caroline's Comedy Club in Times Square.
Nice.
Some of my favorite comics, Gary Goldman headlined, Danny Cohen, who's a hilarious comedian, co-headlined with Gary Goldman. Some of my favorite comics sponsored it. We sold the place out. I had another one planned and then COVID happened. So I've done it on Zoom. It's a huge commitment. So I plan to do it again probably in another year.
Love it. Whilst you were in Jewish summer camp, see, I just keep going back there. I'm so fascinated. You know, you asked me earlier if I was Jewish. No, I'm not Jewish, but I did watch The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I was fascinated by that camp that she went to.
Yeah, that's fun.
Whilst you were at Jewish summer camp.
Whilst, good word.
Thank you. You played the matchmaker in Fiddler on the Roof, which is a hell of a segue to talk about the Netflix TV show Jewish Matchmaking. Is it true that years ago, like a decade ago, Eliza Ben Shalom, the actual Jewish matchmaker from the show, was an audience member at one of your comedy shows? Like you knew her?
It wasn't that long ago. It was 6 or 7 years ago.
I'm going to change that to 37 years now.
Yeah, it was 54 years ago.
It was in the Catskills.
It was a show in LA at a museum, and she was in the audience. She's always been lovely. She's the loveliest. I remember I was on the steps outside leaving, and she ran up to me to introduce herself and gave me her book. And in the show, which again, it's like a keynote, but it's also kind of comedy storytelling, I talked about being single, I think. And so she knew, and she said, "Are you dating? Can I match you?" And I like laughed. I was like, absolutely not. You know, I talk about learning to love Tourette's, but learning to love Tourette's and learning to love Tourette's in dating were two different timelines. And I just like wasn't ready. I probably was dating a little bit, but I wasn't doing it intentionally. I wasn't looking to get married. I was still kind of on that journey. And I kind of laughed at her, but we kept in touch. I read her book. We became Facebook friends. We connected on those platforms. And then when this opportunity came, she reached out again and said, "Now are you dating?" And I said, "Now I am dating." And so then she put me in touch with producers and the Netflix team.
So it was through her that you became part of the show?
Yeah. Listen, I've never sought out to be on a reality dating show. I'm 4'6.5", twitchy and weird. Like I was never The Bachelor. None of those franchises are like casting the me's of the world. They should be way more fun.
Be a lot more fun.
You know, let's do a weird season.
A weird season.
Let's get all the weirdos. I'm a weirdo. I embrace it. It's way more fun.
Love it. Welcome to You Made It Weird with Pam Schuller. I know that you said you would never intentionally, reach out to try to be on one of those shows. So why did you do it? What were you looking to get out of it? Why'd you say yes?
Well, there's a few things. I did a lot of thinking if I wanted to do this. On one hand, I'm ready for love, and my dating pool are often comedians in New York City. And that is not a dating pool that anyone wants to be stuck in. No, I'm just kidding. There's some great guys, but it's limited. I'm on the road, or I'm only meeting male comics. I mean, female as well, but I'm not dating those. So that was one piece. And then the other piece was, I don't feel like I get to see a lot of representation on shows like this. And I think there's something really beautiful about like, everyone is going through something and so many people are looking for love. There's one show that I can think of, Love on the Spectrum, but I don't necessarily only date other people with disabilities. I'm not saying I won't date someone with a disability, but I just want a creative, funny, driven guy. It could be anyone. I wanted more representation. And if I want it, other people probably want it too. So I figured, why not?
This is going to sound weird. Did it change your life in any way? Like, how is your life different now than before the show?
Yeah, I think it probably did a little bit. I think on one hand, it kind of like put me out there being like single, ready to mingle.
Sure.
So that was one thing. The matchmaker and I are still connected, right? So hopefully she's going to find someone perfect for me. Eliza, if you're listening to this, let's do it. Find me my match. And I think as a performer, having Netflix say like she's a comedian is helpful. I thought they did a pretty great job showing me as I am. I'm bubbly, I'm fun, I'm quirky. In settings with my friends and people I care about, I'm always trying to bring out the best in them and show the best in me. And I think that was how I came. I mean, I hope that was how I came off on the show. I mean, yeah, I'm half the time a nightmare, but I was only on camera for 12 minutes. Thank goodness. So yeah, I don't know that it hugely changed my life. The casting process was great for me because I had to really intentionally think about what I'm looking for in a partner, things like that. So I don't know that it hugely changed my life, but it was fun. I learned a little bit about myself. It was a weird choice to make, and I love making weird, unexpected choices.
Love it. You did come off in all of the ways that you hoped.
Oh, good.
You came off as cute and funny and quirky and just adorable. My wife and I were watching it, and the moment that you came on the screen, like I picked up my phone and I was like, I got to reach out. Like I got to see if I can get this girl on the show. Are you dating anyone currently? Can you say?
Oh, I can say. I'm not dating anyone from the show.
Sure.
I'm not in a relationship.
Well played. If there was to be, and I know that we don't know, if there was to be a season 2, would you be on board?
I don't know. I don't jump the gun. I will make a decision if they reach out, if there is a season 2, if I feel like I would still be doing it for the right reasons. I like to check in with myself in the moment. So I will tell you, I'll watch the season 2. And if there's a season 2 and it feels right, I would make that decision at the game time.
Wow. You should run for public office. So I know that Aliza Ben Shalom is going on tour with, not necessarily related to the show, but with some other things that she's doing. Is there a chance that you might pop into one of her shows and be like, hey, what's up, lady?
There is a chance. I've already popped into one of them.
Oh, snap.
At the premiere in New York. She's asked me to do others, and my schedule's just been bonkers. So hopefully, I'd love to. I think the world of her. I think she's brilliant and funny and sweet and sees people for who they really are. And if my schedule works, it would be an honor to get to like elevate her and get people laughing and comfortable.
You're telling me that the way she came off on the show is her. That's real?
Yep, that's her.
Well, that is awesome. It's not often that you can say that about somebody you saw on TV.
She deserves every ounce of happiness and success. She is just lovely.
Sweet. That is good to hear. Tour dates, stand-up special imminent. What's going on in your stand-up comedy careers?
So at this point, I'm focusing more on the comedy storytelling. So I like to say in an hour of my show, you're going to laugh and you're going to cry and you're going to feel and you're going to learn something. There's stand-up in there, but it's a little different than like a dirty club in the city. But I still do that too. I had a show last night at a comedy club in New York. So it kind of depends on the time of year and what I'm working on. But I'm doing a little bit more of the comedy storytelling these days, which has been a ton of fun.
Is there any chance that the comedy division of Netflix saw you on the show and says, you know what we need? Tiny storytelling.
I guess there's a chance anything could happen. I doubt from that they're going to like book me for a half hour.
I know, but at least it puts you on their radar and then they can look into you and then let's do it. I'm talking to you, Netflix.
I will say the producer that I worked with from Netflix was just a good guy with a good heart. And I really liked him. And I'd like to work with anyone from that team again. I try not to like get bogged down in like, this is my next step. This is my goal. My theory is as long as I'm growing and pushing myself and being creative, it might be something I never expected. A year and a half ago, I never thought I'd be on a matchmaking TV show. There's so many things I've done that like, that never occurred to me. I've done a lot of things that like I never expected and have made me so happy. So I don't know, it could be a comedy thing. It could be something I've never expected. As long as I'm like working my butt off and being creative, I'm hoping it'll lead me in the right direction.
I love it.
And I wouldn't say no to a comedy special.
You hear that, Netflix? I'm still talking to you. So I know that on the show you were matched with Stuart Chaseman, and it didn't seem to be a romantic match, but are you guys still friendly?
Friendly, absolutely. Yeah.
He seemed like a pretty genuine guy as well. Are you any good at ping pong? Because he's not.
So here's what's funny. I actually think, like, who sat around in a room and was like, what date should we put the twitchy 4'6" girl on a physical ping pong date.
It could have been axe throwing.
Right, which I've done that too. I was like, this could be a disaster, but here's the thing. I grew up playing ping pong. I love ping pong. It's the only I don't know if it's athletic, but semi-athletic thing that I'm not the worst at. I'm not good at it, but if my eyes are not crossed, I can connect the paddle to the ball. And so I think I was okay. I held my.
Yeah, you did hold your own. You mentioned a couple of times your eyes being crossed. Is that one of the things that happens with you?
They're called tics from Tourette's, TICS, not TICKS. And for me, my face and my hands are still what is primarily affected. So I blink a lot. I cross my eyes. I make funny faces. So I don't drive.
When your eyes are crossed, how long does it last?
Anywhere from 1 second to way too long. Just depends on the day.
That must be interesting.
It causes headaches.
Ooh, well, I can't imagine. I bet it really does. Yeah.
Yeah. I wink uncontrollably as well. And men think I'm winking at them and women ask me if I'm okay. Although I did a dirty show in the city recently. It was at a club. And I absolutely talked about having Tourette's. And I got off stage and another comic goes, I saw you winking at me. And I was like, I saw you not listening to a word I said.
Or I have some things going on. Pam, I can't believe we're kind of out of time here, but thank you so much for being so willing and open and honest and genuine to talk about all of these things. Some of these things could be touchy in certain hands and could be offensive to some people. And I really appreciate you just going there with me and putting up with all of my questions where I don't know things.
Of course. I love that you're curious and that you asked great questions. And I'm appreciative that you invited me on to hang out.
You are sweet. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
My Instagram is at Pamela Comedy. That's also, I think, every one of my social medias, but my Instagram and YouTube are where I'm most active at Pamela Comedy. And my website is PamelaComedy.com.
Wow, it's a good thing that didn't get taken or you'd be screwed.
All right.
So is that where people can go to find out where you're going to be doing things that they can go buy a ticket to see?
My Instagram is the best bet for that.
Okay, cool. Wow. Well, before I let you go, is there anything that we didn't talk about or I didn't ask you about that you specifically wanted to talk about today? Did I miss anything?
Oh, I think you asked great questions and fun.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Pamela Schuller, Pamela Ray even. Pamela Ray Schuller. I'm just going to say all the things. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day and your hectic helping out teenage kids in need schedule to hang out and let us get to know you a little bit better on Fascination Street. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
It was 100% my pleasure. And you have a great rest of your week.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Opening music is the song FSP Theme, written, performed, and provided by Ambush Vin.
Closing music is from the song Say My Name off the 2021 album Underdog Anthems, used with permission from Jack's Hollow. If you like the show, tell a friend, subscribe, and rate and review the show on iTunes and wherever else you download podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. All the episodes are available there as well. Check me out on Vero at Fascination Street Pod and TikTok at Fascination Street Pod. And again, thanks for listening.